George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people we feel good about. We've got the CEO of the Good Life Foundation, and Hasan Stephens is joining us. You know, Hasan, I was thinking about you this morning. I was like, are you more Hasan Stephens or you more DJ Maestro these days? And my theory is I'm seeing more Hasan Stephens and less DJ Maestro. So help a brother out with that.
I mean, I think that depends on who you're talking to.
Okay, sure.
You know, DJ Maestro and Hasan Stephens to me are one and the same. So I never stopped being a DJ. I never stopped. The influence of hip hop culture is exactly why I started the Good Life Foundation. I think from a professional standpoint, people are seeing more accomplishments now as, Hasan Stephens. But even in my signature, I say Hasan Maestro Stephens, right? Because that's who I am. And I've had the blessing of being able to shape Good Life and start Good Life with hip hop influence. And, it was the maestro that gave me the open door to be able to interact and deal with youth. So when I talk to the kids, I'm maestro. Hey, what's up? That's Stro, right? And then when I speak to the professional side that may not understand that, then I'm Hasan Stephens.
And so you don't have to code switch.
I mean, I think, listen, man, I think we all have to code switch, right? But I think what I'm trying to do is educate investors, educate supporters, partners, so that I don't have to code switch, right? They understand that the power is in DJ Maestro and not necessarily Hasan Stephens. But I think that's society's desire to have to separate. There is no separation in hip hop. We don't separate it. It's who we are. Hip hop is now getting its respect as a genre of music and a culture that is now business. Jay-Z is in every industry, right?
Yeah.
He's in every industry.
He's a business man.
Exactly. So why do we have to change the way we call ourselves, or frame ourselves simply because the world doesn't understand? It's time to stop asking for acceptance. This is just who we are. And it's better for people to understand that hip hop is the main reason why we are as successful as we are. And that's because we can penetrate and get into areas with youth that others can't.
Good Life Foundation, of course, uses hip hop to teach life skills, and you work with families, you work with youth, and you have a cohort of young people throughout your partnership with Syracuse City School District. You go into I'm gonna say prisons, but you go into you're in the, I heard this term the other day, you're in the incarceral system working with youth. You got your 16 bars program and all of those things. And so how has I wanted to say, how has hip hop, do you think, using that culture, the graffiti, the DJ, the rapper, what's the other one? The 5 elements. What are the 5 elements?
So the 4 foundational elements is the MC, which is the oral part, that's rap. Right? You have the DJ, which is the cornerstone, the foundations, where it all started. You have graffiti, and you have the dance portion, which is breaking. But there's also the 9-element theory as well, where there's other elements. So the 5th element of hip hop is knowledge. And see, these are the things that people don't know. The 5th element of hip hop is knowledge. Hip hop is incredibly intelligent, right? You look at the 9th element of hip hop, which is entrepreneurship, which is what we teach, right? Street entrepreneurship or street business, street hustling. And you have all these different, elements, beatboxing. It's important for people to really fully understand that hip hop is a fully complex culture that has defined a generation of people. It's not just about a music that has been tainted and it's full of negative connotations within popular media. It's deeper than that. And it's a culture that saved my life and has saved millions of people. And we have to begin looking at it as that.
How did it save your life?
Well, I'll tell you what, I grew up in Edenwald Projects. It's one of the worst projects in the Bronx. Split time with the South Bronx. Either area was not the best area to grow up in. On any given day, I would wake up and hear gunshots. I'd go to sleep, hear gunshots. I'd pass crackheads, and I'd have to look around the corner just to make sure that I was safe to walk into my building. Every day in my life was a threat. Hip hop saved me because in the hood, you're doing one of 2 things. You are selling drugs or you're using drugs. or you're distracted by something to take you and remove you from that reality altogether. Hip hop removed me from that. Early on, I was rapping. I was interested in performing. It gave
Wait.
me.
You a rapper?
That's how I started, man. That's how I
Word. Okay.
started.
See, I've not heard you do that. That's what I'm saying. I
Yeah,
haven't
you know
heard you
what?
spit nothing, man.
I tell you
Let me
what.
hear something.
2021. You might actually be hearing some stuff. We're working on some stuff, and it's just for fun,
Go ahead.
and more to spotlight some of the youth that we're working with. But I think in 2021, you're gonna hear some stuff from
All
me.
right, go ahead. So you said you started as a rapper.
Yeah, I started rapping early on. Actually, my producer. Some people might know Most Def, the
Mm-hmm.
rapper Most Def. Him and I shared the same producer, Sean J. Period, out of Brooklyn. I remember ciphers, in Brooklyn, with Most, and early on, just as a young head. So I started in entertainment as a performer. So singing. A lot of people don't know this side of me that I can sing. Right, it's one of the reasons why my daughter is a phenomenal vocalist. Right now, it runs in the family. My dad was a singer. I picked up singing. I used to do off Broadway. Work with Savion Glover. Tap Dance Kid. I've worked with Shari Belafonte. Worked with Gregory Hines. And a lot of people don't know this part of my life when I was doing off Broadway, when I was acting, when I was doing, commercials and stuff. And that was my gateway, was the entertainment side. When I came up to college, Hobart and William Smith colleges, it was a shift culturally. There was none of my culture up here, and I felt alone. I was by myself. I would walk around the campus asking who spit. Yo, you spit, you rhyme, you flow, and people were like what, and it was so disconcerting that I had to figure out a simple component or element of hip hop that allowed me to maintain my identity within um, a predominantly white environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started taking up DJing. I went into the school radio station, the college radio station, and I started, rocking there. And, I dabbled in DJing, but I hadn't really, taken it full on. But then I just started learning and going, and I needed some way for hip hop to express who I was in this new white world that was so, I remember crying on the bench of Hobart William Smith is on a beautiful lake. It sits on a lake. I remember being in college and wondering, why am I here? Why am I here? And now you're talking about, and I'm going to relate this to Good Life. You're talking about a young man who academically was soaring, right? Was in a private school, was prep for prep program, all these different things in New York City, top 10 percentile academically, came to this area, and I culturally felt alone and
Mm-hmm.
scared, right? Now, could you imagine Black and brown youth in Syracuse, the ninth most segregated city in the United States, marginalized groups, no buildings and no identity for these kids, and we're asking them to thrive and we're asking them to excel? That doesn't make sense. It's not rational, because identity is at the root of success. Your ability to be successful means you must know who you are and from whence you came.
So,
Period.
so you said hip hop saved your lives. So how is hip hop saving the lives of the young people in the Cuse through Good Life Foundation?
Well, exactly that. I think it provides an identity for an identityless population, right? This is a culture that youth identify with. This is a culture that they are comfortable with, and it relates to them and they relate to it. So,
So what are the programs that help to do that, is what I'm
okay.
specifically asking?
So here's an example. You mentioned that we go into the prisons. We go into McCormick, which is out towards Ithaca, and we're teaching them how to DJ. So I teach youth how to DJ, hip hop DJ, and then I teach them the business connected to DJing, right? And as we all know, my career, DJ Maestro, it kept me alive for many years and allowed me, even when I've been laid off at different jobs and whatever else through the time, I could survive financially. It provides a skill set for them that they can always make money from. Additionally, we use hip hop to teach them about entrepreneurship, what we call hip hoppreneurship, the alignment between the values of hip hop, a culture that was creating something from nothing, and teaching them the core values of entrepreneurship in a way that they understand it and it resonates with them, right? We talk about hip hop circles, where we use the language and the lyrics of hip hop, which is very much talking about PTSD, depression, certain emotional and mental states and experiences, to help kids relate and understand what they're going through. Mental health is it's a taboo in our communities, right?
Yeah.
Kids don't want to go see a therapist or not, right? But what if we could sit and break down and analyze a song that talks about someone that's depressed, and then we can talk about solutions and coping mechanisms with it and give them a different way of looking at it, right? With Abraham Massara, licensed, mental health specialists out here. There's so many different ways that we can use hip hop to get these kids. What about the therapeutic self-expression opportunities, just for kids to be able to voice themselves through and lend them a voice in a society that renders them silent? I could go on and on, man. Hip hop is amazing.
Talking to Hasan Stephens, CEO of the Good Life Foundation. I was thinking about when you were talking about analyzing a song, I always go to, and I'm certainly not a hip hop head, but I will say this. I love J. Cole's song. I can't remember what the name of it, but there's like a third verse where he talks about the issues that he faces. And I can't think of the name of the song, but
J. Cole's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Motivation. I forgot what the name of it was, but I'm showing that I don't really know. But and another quick side note. I don't know if you know this, but I graduated from John Philip Sousa High School, junior high school.
Did that was across the street. That's across the street.
So when you say Edenwald, I definitely know that it was over there, but I was going up Baychester Avenue up.
I know that school well, man.
I was going that way. Yeah. So you have been tell me about the programming that you have in the schools and how that's been impacted by COVID and what you've been doing. I've seen what you've been doing. I participated. You got a grant from Allen Foundation this summer, and you did some work with the youth. I went to the graduation or the final day of it, and I bought some T-shirts, and it was a lot of fun. So talk about how you've been impacted by COVID and how you're staying in touch with the families and what that looks like now during the time of a resurgence pandemic.
Well, I think COVID has set back a lot of people financially. So, the loss of sales tax in the state of New York has reduced overall budgets for government agencies across the board. And so, as a result, the Syracuse City School District had to sever or reduce contracts with external sources. And as great of a job that many of the people in the district do in terms of providing our children with education, the reality is that without the assistance of outside agencies, a lot of those efforts fall mute. It's the point is that they need the assistance of people from the community to get kids to log on, especially during times where kids are remote, to get resources out. So we were instrumental in we delivered over 19,000 meals to youth and families during the summer and over the course of this time.
19,000.
Over 19,000 lunches, meals to youth and families since March, when the pandemic quarantine started, to the most recent times where we had stopped, which was, I would say, around September. If we go remote again, I'm assuming those services are going to be needed again. And what we did as an agency was we pivoted. Our services, the program One Mic, which is the program, it stands for One Mission Impossible Completed. The idea is to help youth that have never performed, right, or have a track record of not performing, accomplish one mission at a time, one goal, one accomplishment at a time. And through that, they build self-confidence and understand that success is in their nature, right? But what we do is we mentor. We have one-on-one mentoring, life coaches that go into the families. The family coach goes into the family and creates a plan for success for the kids and the family. The life coach deals directly with the youth, and then we do assemblies, motivational assemblies. There's really this robust program. The circles, the hip hop ciphers, are the circles that I just mentioned earlier. What happened when COVID took them out of the schools was that we took a hard pivot and said, how do we still deliver these resources and deliver these needs to the family? So we started delivering laptops that were provided by the Allen Foundation and the Syracuse City School District, making sure that kids had technology and the knowledge to be able to get on remotely. We delivered the 19,000 meals. We were calling families and seeing, what are your basic needs? There were families that needed, early on when we knew nothing about this pandemic, they needed supplies, cleaning supplies. We raised money and took that money and bought supplies and gave it out to families. So our role and position is making sure our youth and families are okay. And that continues whether we're in school or not.
And so what's your vision for what Good Life behind you on the video for those listening on the radio is a rendering of the institute you want to build. Talk about that.
It's the first of its kind, the Hip Hop Center for Youth Entrepreneurship. And so we want to create a cultural hub. Back to what I was talking about in terms of identity. They need a building that they see themselves in, that they have ownership in, that provides opportunities for them to have brick and mortar hands-on experience in running and building businesses. That is a one-stop shop for resources and services. And so imagine a building that eliminates the silos. I mean, part of this is not just about delivering resources to youth. Part of it is about uplifting and bringing our community and society to a level that it deserves, that where it should be. And what that means is, this is a personal opinion, man. And I have tried to be an example of this, a living example. In the words of Arel Moody, I have tried to show the way so that we can follow, right? But collaborative, make sure that we are collaborating with each other. Make sure that we are putting the clients first, right? Make sure that we are not operating in silos, that we're not competing with each other, that we're not, we have to stop doing that. And so I want this building to be a place where like-minded organizations come together to give youth what they need in order to thrive.
There was a big funding you received to help along with that. What was that?
We received money from the CFA, the Consolidated Funding Application. So about $750,000. We've fundraised through public and private entities. We're at about a $1.5 million match right now. We are raising $9 million. And so we are thinking outside the box. We're reaching outside of just Syracuse, New York to get that funding. And we really are trying to create a national story about this project, because Syracuse is a microcosm of the nation. And we're getting a lot of national attention and international attention, as a matter of fact. So recently there was an article about us in the Grio, not thanks to Natasha Alford, appreciate her. And then we also had an article in hiphopwired.com. There's a newspaper in California that's writing in criminal justice reform, that's writing an article about us. Like, people across the nation are starting to see what we're doing and the benefits of it. The University of Sydney, Australia reached out to us and was looking at potential ways. This was right when the pandemic was just hitting. They want to look at ways that they can use our model to engage the Aboriginal population in Australia. And so when this pandemic is done, we want to explore that and kind of figure out, how does this model work? Hip hop is global; it's everywhere, man. Yeah. And so using this can work anywhere.
And you've also been selected as an entrepreneur in residence at Lemoyne College. Tell us about that.
An amazing opportunity. Jim Joseph, Mike Derrida, Matt Reed. There's an amazing team over there at Lemoyne College. Lemoyne is home to the majority of local entrepreneurs. And we're talking, and I think people aren't really, maybe people don't understand the impact that Lemoyne has had. But You're talking about major entrepreneurs and companies, from companies like SpinCar to like, these other agencies that are out here that have roots in Lemoyne. And for me to be able to join there, to open up an avenue for diversity, to open up, I'm not only the second entrepreneur in residence, but I'm the first African-American entrepreneur in residence at Lemoyne College. So there's something happening up on that campus, and their goal is to reach their tentacles into the community and deliver, this knowledge so that people can really be self-sustainable and do what they want to do as entrepreneurs.
So what does that mean? Are you funded to be there? Are you going to be teaching? Are you going to be learning? What does that mean that you're entrepreneurs in residence?
So what that means is that, yes, I am funded to be there. So it is a position that I've taken on. My role is to teach entrepreneurship to their young entrepreneurs in the Keenan Center of Entrepreneurship and Innovation. And so while I'll be teaching them, it also means a big partnership between Good Life Foundation and the Keenan Center and the Madden School, which is the business school. Jim Joseph is amazing. So we have a lot in store for the community, right? It's not just about the students up at Lemoyne, but students in Syracuse City School District could be students up at Keenan Center, right? And how do we create that pipeline and that channel for kids to access, whether they're students or not? How do we get that knowledge into the communities that are suffering?
So how does a kid from Edenwald Projects in the Bronx end up in Central New York and love it and thrive here and build here? What is it about this community that you have laid your roots down?
That's a tough question.
Sure it is. That's why I asked it. What do you think?
Yeah, you're good, George. You're good. Nah, to be honest with you, George, I came up here for school. Mm-hmm. Growing up in what we call Beirut, war zone in Edenwald, I think I needed a break. And when I visited Hobart and William Smith colleges, which turned out to be the perfect place for me, what happened was that sitting on that lake and looking at that lake, the same lake that I was bawling my eyes out because I did not know who I was was respite from chaos. And so I fell in love with that in Geneva, New York. And then I was pre-med. And so upstate New York changed me. When I went to school, I was pre-med. I had done an externship with orthopedic surgery with an amazing doctor in New York City and got some experience there and watched and something snapped in me and said, you know what, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. I want to tap into the culture that I love. And I changed my major, I changed my focus, I changed everything. And upon graduation of Hobart, I applied to Power 106.9, which was a radio station out here in in Syracuse. And I had been DJing. And Butch Charles, one of my mentors, frat brother and former boss, gave me an opportunity. So that's how I got to Syracuse. Power 106.9, Hot 107.9, News Channel 9. And then when I saw I was here, I had children. And so, there was a period of time when I was working at MTV, when I had co-hosted BET's Rap City in the Basement, when I was doing a lot of stuff in New York. And I think for me as a father, I needed to be near my children. And I said, I have children here. I'm staying here. And for the first 10 years that I was here, I have to say, I didn't like it. I wasn't happy. But what happened was I started to understand it from a different perspective. People complain about what's here, what's not here more often than not. And I don't think they realize that this is uncharted territory. This is an area where you can thrive, where you can create what it is that you want. And you have the tentacles close enough within your reach of people that can make those decisions and changes in order for it to happen. Syracuse is the best place for a person to become a millionaire quickly. And if we can't show that pathway for the very people that are here, that are disenfranchised, disconnected, then what are we doing, right? And so that's how I focused on Good Life, focused on growing here, raising children here. I wouldn't want my kids growing up where I grew up. You know, I love the Bronx. I love visiting. I love New York City, but I just want to visit and come right back.
Hasan Stephens is the CEO of the Good Life Foundation. How can the community engage with Good Life and support the work you're doing?
Watch us. I think there's a lot of questions. And George, I'm gonna tackle something that, you know, I've been quiet about for a while, but we in this Black community, we have been socialized and taught to tear each other down. We have to be each other's champions. We have to be each other's cheering squad. We have to watch and see. We are very transparent at Good Life. We post what we do. We want people to see how we do it. We want people to collaborate with us if the collaboration makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mutually beneficial. There's a lot of question about this young man that's not from the area, that came and is doing all this stuff in short, 8 short years.
Well, let's translate that. Why? How come Hasan is getting all the play? That's basically that's what you're basically trying to say.
Well,
is that what you're getting at? Is it about you, or what is it about?
You know what? I think people make it about me, and It's not about me. I got a team that's crazy. You know, I was blessed with the skill set and the ability to identify talent, and so my team is great. Azar Yema, who is director of programming, and from the community, is amazing. We got people on staff like, JT Houston, like Ryan Williams, operations guy who's a brilliant mind. We have a brilliant board of directors, right? And I think people make it about me. And yes, I'm the visionary. I'm the CEO. And yeah, I did contribute a lot to what's going on. But the reason why we keep winning is because we're relentless, because we emotionally are connected to the mission, and we are relentless, and we want Black excellence. So we try to put out Black excellence in everything that we do. But this is not about, well, why does he keep getting to play? I don't want to go there. The reality is,
but you're alluding to the fact that there's this culture to tear down. And so what I'm hearing implied in that is that the arrows are coming at Good Life, or the arrows are coming at you, and you're asking the question, why is that? Why can't we lift each other up and build each other up? That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah. So I'm going to say this. Jay-Z has a brilliant song, and he talks about most young kings get their heads chopped off.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I will say that this is par for the course. The person that the spotlight starts to shine on, I think, starts to get scrutiny. And what I say is, we are rooted in this work. Our hearts are in this work, and we're producing outcomes. So pay attention to the outcomes, pay attention to the love, pay attention to the team, and collaborate, because this has never been a box out game. This has been a collaboration game. Through the TLC classroom, Central New York Community Foundation, I co-facilitate with Beth Broadway, and we take grassroots organizations. We teach them how to build their organization from the roots up. We also give them a grant of $5,000. I am part of the Redlick Horowitz Foundation. I recently joined. I'm a board member for this major foundation in the state of New York. And they afford me $10,000 to give to an agency or organization of my choice, right? I am continuously finding ways to not just build Good Life, but to build other organizations up. People have a choice as to whether or not they collaborate or whether they see us as a threat. There is no such thing as a threat. This is the Black community, and we have to help each other. We've got to work with each other, because the problems and the issues don't go away because we want to look at each other funny. It doesn't. Right? We have to be able to work together in order to accomplish. And that means figure out, ways that we can work together to achieve the goal. That's it. It's simple. Right? So I've always tried to uplift others in other groups. Right now in the newest cohort, we have a young man, Sultani Campbell, Wish Upon a Star. He's been doing great work with youth. And so we got him into the program to be able to learn and get the 5,000. We have Alameen Muhammad, who is a great community member working with the homeless. We've got a ton of different organizations.
If we eat, they eat. Go ahead.
Oh my gosh, right? If we eat, they eat. What an amazing motto, right? And there's people out here that know we have to uplift each other in order to survive. Alameen has supported us. We've supported him. He's a living example of the way in which we should operate. We've tried to be a living example of the way in which we should all operate. And the reason why I'm glad you asked the question, because the reason why I point that out and we talk about it is because, listen, enough is enough. We've got to rise as a people. We've got to. Like, enough is enough. And so we have to be able to set the example and hold people to the fire to say, let's rise together, period.
Hasan Stephens is the CEO of the Good Life Foundation. Hasan, keep up the good work.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much.
Inspiration for the nation.